be starting momentarily. Welcome to our Sustain Dane event that's going to highlight the many things that the Village of Oregon is doing to improve sustainability. This event is sponsored by Ho Chunk Gaming, and I want to thank the Kickback Cafe for hosting the event. Our first speaker is from Sustain Dane. It's Steve Wayland.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Good to see everybody here today. So Sustain Dane is a nonprofit here in Dane County. We're based in Madison, but we've been working really hard for the last 6 months, almost a year now, getting out into the communities and meeting with folks outside of Madison, because we want to live up to our name. We are Sustain Dane. We've been to Fitchburg, Middleton, the village of Shorewood Hills, Cross Plains, just all around doing events like this, and they're hearing from local community organizations as well as the village and city folks as also. So I serve on the board as a volunteer at Sustain Dane, have been doing that as the board chair for the last 2 years. My term's getting ready to run out, but I'll stay on the board. I'd be glad to talk to any of you more about Sustain Dane and what we do, but I'm going to let my friend Lucia Hunt, who's on the staff at Sustain Dane, tell you a little bit more about the organization itself. So thanks for being here tonight, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. This is such an awesome turnout, and really excited to see so many people passionate about sustainability projects in your personal lives and your organizations. And a lot of what Sustain Dane does is inspire, connect, and support people to actually take action on sustainability. So whether that is composting in your home, or bringing food scraps to a compost drop site, or encouraging your organization to do a LED lighting retrofit, we are there to support and educate through workshops, connecting one-on-one with resources to make action happen, and then inspire other people to do that too. So we talk about the ripple effect, where if you educate someone, they can then tell 10 friends or start something at their organization and make that impact so much greater through a ripple. So we have some programs right now involving food waste and recycling. We've done some farmers market drop-offs in Madison. Would love to do similar work in Oregon. We are also working in energy efficiency and affordable housing. So those are two big program areas. A lot of that is grant funded, and we have partnerships, local partnerships with other nonprofit organizations and municipalities to move those forward. And then we also have a suite of educational workshops, so that involves recycling, learning the ins and outs of why recycle and also what can be recycled and not, as well as general sustainability primer, learning about water. So there's a range of topics to learn from and ways to get involved. Feel free to talk with me or Laura over here, Steve, and would love to connect you with our programming. All right, next up.
Thanks, Lucia. Yeah, so one of the cool things about these events is that we get folks from the private sector, the public sector, nonprofits, just folks that live in the community, getting together and talking about these issues and working together collaboratively to address some of the challenges that we face in our communities now with sustainability. So I was introduced to Ray, who lives here in the communities and on an ad hoc committee, by Ben, who's going to be speaking later from the MPO. And next we're going to have one of your village board members, Mike, speak and talk a little bit about what's going on in the village.
Hi, my name's Mike Wunsch. I'm a village board trustee for the Village of Oregon. The village has made a real commitment over the last several years to emphasize sustainability within our community. We've started an ad hoc transportation committee that's looking at linking us in both locally and within the region to public transit and giving options for our citizens to not have to use cars. We've started a sustainability committee that's looking at ways to lessen the impact of village operations on the environment and improve our resilience to climate change. We're pushing for implementing some of the proposals that Elise Cruz will be speaking in a little bit, has recommended for affordable housing, many of which dovetail with sustainability goals and making housing cheaper and less impactful on the environment. And of course, none of this would be successful without the involvement and commitment of the village staff, many of whom have had an interest and are buying into the concept of sustainability for the village. So I don't have much more to say, but I would like to introduce Elise Cruz, the Director of Planning and Community Development for Oregon.
Thanks, Mike. Ooh, and nice to see all of you tonight. As Mike mentioned, I'm our Director of Community Development, so planning, zoning, parks, culvers, new neighborhoods, kind of everything miscellaneous here at the village. So it's a really exciting time to be here. We got a lot of stuff in the works right now as far as sustainability. As Mike mentioned, we have every year we do an affordable housing report and kind of look at what's available in our community, what's the median price of housing compared to income, kind of check in on that data every year. And then there's a list of recommendations that comes from that report. So those have kind of carried forward over the last couple of years, and we're getting ready to implement some of those. So some of those changes will provide more housing choice, hopefully, within the village. So allowing accessory dwelling units, also called granny flats or tiny houses or ADUs, by right in more neighborhoods, and kind of creating a framework for what that would look like. Also trying to allow more mixed use development by right. So having more spaces like this where there's apartments above and businesses below, and trying to create more walkable communities. Next year we're also embarking on an update to our 10-year comprehensive plan, as well as our 5-year park and open space recreation plan. So those processes will involve a lot of community involvement and meetings, and then towards the end of the next year we'll have kind of a plan for both of those that'll be updated for the next 5 to 10 years. And then lastly, we did get funding from the DOT to do a bike and ped study, so that'll kind of follow on the heels of these comp plan and park plan updates and give us some more specific ideas about where we should be putting improved bike and ped infrastructure, kind of looking at our existing system, finding out where the gaps are and where some of those linkages could really help make a big impact. So I think that's kind of all the high points I wanted to hit. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise, for sharing that. And definitely want to introduce you, Elise, to Valora and the staff and what Sustain Dane is doing with regards to affordable housing in Madison, and see if that might be an opportunity to work together here in Oregon. I did want to introduce another board member that has joined us, Jim Wisely. I'm sorry, Jim Bradley.
That's the first time I've ever been called wise.
He's a wise man and has been involved with Sustain Dane for over 20 years. So thanks for being here, Jim. And again, give another another thank you to Ho Chunk Gaming of Madison. They did provide a grant to Sustain Dane to fund the food and the locations for these events, and thanks again to Dan for hosting us tonight here at the cafe. So next we're going to hear from Oregon School District. Mike Andy Wayland. Same last name as mine, but a little bit different spelling. Thanks for being here, Andy. Tell us what's going on in the school district.
So I've been the business manager for the school district now for, this is my 24th year. I can tell you that for probably the first 10 to 12 years, we were doing some things regarding sustainability. A lot of things with the kids. My focus has always been kind of on the saving money type of thing and energy. And I would tell you the last decade or so, we've really done a lot of things. We've added solar to 3 of our buildings. We have geothermal in 2 of our buildings. And that was actually part of the process that we kind of took to build our newest school, which is in Fitchburg, not in Oregon, but it's a building that's a net zero building, and you've probably heard of it. But basically what that means is it produces as much electricity as it uses in a given year. And it was modeled to do that, and we just in September completed our 2nd year where we've met that goal. We actually both years made a little over 20 megawatts more power than we used, so we actually helped the grid and reduce carbon that way. That might not sound like a huge big deal. It uses 2 main technologies to do it, and they're fairly simple technologies, and they're the 2 technologies that I mentioned before. One is solar. It has 1,704 solar panels on it, and the other thing is geothermal. What that allows us to do is use only electricity to heat, cool, and basically do everything within the building. So there's no natural gas to the building at all. It's at the street. It's required to be at the street, but it's not to the building at all. So everything we do is electrical, and that's when we built the building, we didn't anticipate that that would be the big thing, but as I've looked at this, it is really the big thing, because it's a pathway as we clean the grid to reduce the amount of carbon that we put into the air. And I like to tell groups when I meet with them is we need to stop burning stuff, because that's what puts the carbon in the air. Maybe a little oversimplified, but that's the deal. The building was the largest net zero educational facility in North America until this summer. Then Myrtle Beach added like 3 or 4 buildings that were a little bit larger than Forest Edge, but at almost 127,000 square feet. I would say that the climate in Fitchburg, Wisconsin is a little bit more harsh than Myrtle Beach. So I still kind of take a lot of pride in that. The building's gotten a lot of notoriety. I could talk about the building for literally half an hour, and I have probably 20 or 30 times in the last 2 years. But I only got 3 minutes right now, and I'm probably at the end of that. I will tell you that actually this Sunday, Karen Majeski and I are actually going to be with a film crew, and we are going to be on a nationally syndicated show called Into the Outdoors in February. They've been filming in the school for a while and trying to educate younger kids about net zero concepts and sustainability. So look for that in February.
I should mention one other building that's going up in Oregon that just broke ground a week or so ago, which is the Oregon Public Library, which will have geothermal, it will have solar arrays, it will have native plantings, and to the extent possible, we're making it as green as possible. Our next speaker is the chairperson of the Oregon's Ad Hoc Transportation Committee, Ray Vogler.
Well, first, thank you all for being here. I think it's a great event, wonderful attendance. And can you hear me from the speaker? Yes. Yeah, okay. So the Ad Hoc Public Transportation Committee was actually formed through the village. And the way it went is people would apply to be a member of that committee. And then the president would put that person forward, and then the village board would vote on that individual. So that's the process for joining any number of committees. The ad hoc committee's purpose is to look into public transportation options here in the village of Oregon, and also between Oregon and neighboring communities. So a lot of us are really excited about this. I will tell you personally that my car just broke down, and we've been sharing a car, and I know what it's like not to have a vehicle to get places. So it's something we really need to be thinking about. And a part of what we're trying to do right now is get together a survey. And we've been working with Ben Lyman, who's right over there. He's been our mentor, an excellent resource, helping us to write this survey, because there's a right way and a wrong way. You want to make sure you get the data and the people fill it out. So the survey is going to be asking questions of the entire community. What are your needs in terms of public transportation? Where do you need to go? For what reasons? What times of day? All of those kind of things. And it's going to be live very quickly. The survey will be going out middle of December, and it will be out through the middle of January. It'll be an online form if you want to do that, or it'll be in paper if you prefer. You can pick up papers at like the Oregon Library, the Senior Center, Town Hall, and maybe other places. In addition, the online, you will be able to look at posters around town, get the QR code, scan it, pop into that survey. And we did a lot of work on that survey, frankly. I mean, Ben can tell you maybe a little more. There's really a method to the madness, and it's actually a very scientific operation, and he helped us. So it's only one page. You should be able to do it in 5 to 10 minutes, and we would really welcome your input, because that may be the beginning of Oregon starting public transportation here in our village, and then also between here and other places, such as maybe Madison, Verona, McFarland, Stoughton, whatever people decide is the need. So thank you for your participation in this in advance, and we'll keep you posted. Bye.
Okay, for the speakers we've had already, do you have any questions or comments or feedback? Anyone? Hold on just a second.
Hi. I'm just curious as far as the local alternative transportation, or what sort of options are you considering? I know that thinking train would be nice, but I know that's probably not among them.
So the question is, what are the modes of transportation that we're considering? So something we learned from Ben, and then just in the process of doing this, you first ask the questions, like what do people need and where do they need to go? So the survey will say things like, do you need to go to these places in Oregon, right? People will check off where they need to go. Do you need to go to an outlying community? Then they check off where they want to go. How much time would you spend on public transportation? Would you be willing to leave a vehicle at a park and ride? So what these questions, and you'll be seeing them shortly, they all determine the kind of public transportation that we would then come forward with, and then also the routes. So for example, if we find a lot of people do want to go up to Madison, well, maybe we'll be then doing public transportation that allows that. And there might be alternatives to how to do that. You know, shuttles, people who do park and ride for vehicles, so on and so forth. So options we've been thinking about would be possibly buses, possibly vans, shuttles, possibly shared park rides, bicycles. We think that's very important that we have an active transportation system, because we want people to know that, you know, you can get places right on foot, and I know that this is what Lisa's looking into, so we'll probably be working very closely together on that. So what's called active transportation. So that all that information will kind of funnel us towards what are the methods to be used, and from there we'll sift through it and work with the data. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have a question or comment? How about seeds? And
Oh, well,
there you go. Hold it up next to your mouth, please.
just for fun, I brought some seed paper for native seeds. So it's over there during the break. You're welcome to grab a little bag and enjoy. You can just plant it and it'll come up. Thanks.
Anyone else? If not, we'll take Ray.
just wanted to make a plug for this committee. If anybody out here is interested in public transportation, we need to fill the committee more, and we have a big job ahead of us. It's very exciting, it's very interesting, I'm learning a lot. So to do this, we are actually on a track to try to get the data done, proposals to the board, recommendations, all of that by July 31st. So if anybody here is interested, I think it could be a very fascinating project. We'd love for you to participate. And if you want any more details, you can speak to me during the networking time, and I'll let you know how to do that. So thank you.
Any other comments, or if not, we're going to take a break for a few minutes to have networking and let you get some food, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Hey everybody, it's 6:30, so we're going to start off with second round of speakers. Thanks again for staying with us till the end. So we are going to start out with somebody you heard about in the first session, my friend Ben Lyman. Ben is with the MPO. He was actually the one that connected Sustain Dane with the village, because just through the work that the MPO is doing with the village, and then Sustain Dane and MPO have partnered together in the past, and look forward to doing more partnerships. So without further ado, Ben.
Thanks, Steve. I kind of over-prepared words to say, so in order to keep it 3 minutes, I'm not going to look at this as much as I can. Ben Lyman with the Greater Madison MPO. We're the regional planning authority. We're an organization that's required by law for areas with population over 50,000, where those people live under multiple jurisdictions of local governments. And so our job is to convene and bring everybody together and make sure that regional transportation decisions and funding represent the needs and the priorities of the whole region, not just individual communities. So that's our official role. The Village of Oregon is not in the Madison urban area, just the way the census defines it, but you're within our planning area, because clearly there's a relationship between the city of Madison and the rest of the urban area and the outlying communities like the Village of Oregon. So it is really important that we get to work with you. It's been great to work with the ad hoc committee. It's a nice thing that we have funding so that planners can spend time assisting local communities. Ultimately, because you're out of the urban area, we don't actually choose projects in the village for funding as we do in the rest of the urban area. You access statewide dollars through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. So the active transportation plan that was discussed earlier that Elise is working on was funded through them, although we did kind of, help design that application a little bit, because that's the other thing we do. We're always happy to assist communities in our area, access funds, try and make the best decisions. It's really nice. We don't have any regulatory authority, we don't have any hammer, but we do have money, so people like to work with us. So that's a really great thing. I was asked to just touch a little bit on my where I come from for sustainability. I grew up remotely in southeast Alaska. I had to take a boat to get to the road. I was surrounded by the Tongass National Forest. And when I was in school in Salt Lake City, teaching skiing at Park City during the Olympics, I heard some people talking about how much they hated the urban environment and how they wanted to live in the mountains and just not be around anybody anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, there aren't going to be any mountain valleys anymore. We have to make the urban environment better so people can stand to live there, so that we don't ruin those wonderful places where we can go and escape and not be in an urban area every now and then. And so I changed my major and I became an urban planner. So that's how I came to sustainability, and why I'm a transportation planner now. It was because it is such an important part of how our lives get tied together. And so it's really been a pleasure to work in an area where there is such groundswell of support for sustainability and for transit and for active transportation and for being conscious about how we build our facilities and our networks, our homes, our buildings, so that they relate better to each other. And so we have options other than single occupant vehicles to get around. And with the MPO, we don't have a hammer, but we do have funding. And so we really try and prioritize other ways of improving transportation than just improving capacity and expanding capacity. So you've really got to have a good reason to want to widen a road, because that's what often leads to what we call induced demand. Or, hey, I don't have to wait in traffic anymore. I can move out into the country, and then I'll just add another car to this now 3-lane road, and now 4-lane road. So that's our absolute last choice for dealing with congestion. There's really got to be some compelling reasons for it. Otherwise, we're really focusing on improving transit, improving active transportation, improving carpooling, and other things like that. Another program we do for our travel demand management that is countywide is the round trip program, which we use to help match carpools. So if you want to carpool, you're tired of driving alone, you can register on the Round Trip Greater Madison website, and if somebody else has a similar commute to you, then it'll match you up, and you can reach out to them and see if you want to share rides. It also does that for what we used to call Bike Buddies. We have a new web platform coming out in January, and they call it Bike Pool. There we go. So now I'm supposed to suddenly remember, as of this afternoon, that we're calling it Bike Pool. But again, it'll help match people, especially with winter riding. That can be really important where people they might be happy to ride in the summer, but they don't know what kind of gear to wear. They don't know if it's going to be safe. They don't know how to deal with riding a bike on ice. And so more experienced cyclists can get matched up and give them advice, help with their route finding and their gear selection, and make them feel more comfortable. So we've got a lot of things going on. I'm happy to talk more if anybody has any particular questions about it, but I'm going to call it there because I'm probably way over my 3 minutes.
Thanks, Ben.
Our next speaker is the director of Oregon's Public Works Department, the people that keep our village running, Jeff Rao.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Mike. So with Public Works, we are involved in just about everything village-wide. We cover the parks, we cover the roadways, we cover the stormwater, we cover the utilities, both water and sewer. So we have a lot of things going on all the time in our department. We are also very, very power hungry as far as we use a lot of equipment. We're forced to plow the roadways, we have a lot of mowing equipment, we have a lot of other things. So I think there are opportunities that we can always look for in how we can possibly either reduce that use or look at alternative ways to accomplish the tasks that we need to have done. We've been working with the village board I've been in this position for 7.5 years, and during that time I'm always looking at ways to do things more efficiently, but then we're also looking at nowadays things that we can do that are more green centered, if you will. One of those things that we tried a few years ago was to try to reduce some of the mowing in the village. That was done based on a decision I made and met with quite a bit of resistance. Now we're kind of retooling that, going back into looking at that at the direction of the village board. We've had 2 forums and really gained some information from some people. We'll be presenting that back to the village board in probably February. That will bring recommendations on what we want to do for mowing going forward. And as far as, we have 180 some odd acres of land that we actually actively mow in the village. That costs obviously equipment time, employee time, gas, emissions, everything, maintenance of it. So those are the things that we're always trying to look at, are ways that we can either improve things. We've actually looked into electric mowers. What we're seeing though is some of the electric mowers can't handle a full day's mowing. Mowers are great, electric mowers are great for like yards. When you're talking about someone being out on a piece of equipment for 6.5, 7 hours during the day, that's a pretty heavy demand. Same with like our plow trucks. They are coming out with plow vehicles that have electric dump trucks and electric plow trucks. We don't think the technology is there quite yet. Again, one of those things as far as the time to charge, and then in the event of, say, a catastrophic snow event, like in what just happened in Buffalo, where they're dealing with 7.5 feet of snow, you want to be able to have that equipment ready and ready to go. So we'll also be looking at alternative fuels for those type of things. We're always looking at ways that we can kind of improve how we do what we do. One of the things is as we're remodeling our new village hall. I can't wait to welcome everybody to that new village hall, because if anyone's been in our current village hall, we need a new home. It's very, very old, but it's going to be a really nice facility. But one of the things that we did right off the bat, without question, was we are switching out all the lighting in the entire facility to LED. And that's on all the floors, everything inside and out. We're doing that. It is costing us quite a bit of money, but we think it's a very important investment. We've considered going with some solar panels on the roof. Our current budget doesn't allow it, but I would like to see us look at that in the future to be able to help offset some of those things. We operate a wastewater treatment plant that is very energy hungry. There are wastewater treatment plants out there that have found large solar arrays that they can put either on the plant site or off the plant site to be able to help offset some of those costs. And those are things that we'll be continuing to evaluate as we look at projects and things going forward. Being a village, we are kind of constrained sometimes on the land that we have, but I do think that we can always look at creative locations and places to be able to implement, I would call, best management practices. We always want to look at, first of all, what can we do? Is it feasible? Is it economically feasible for us to do? And what kind of return would we see on it, both environmentally as well as fiscally? So it's always a challenge. We are always welcome to ideas and things that make sense. We have to be good stewards with the money that our public has entrusted to us. We hear a lot of times, I pay my taxes. I always say, thanks, we appreciate that. Even though you're legally bound to do that, I guess. But what they're really saying is, we're trusting you with our money. And so we can never lose sight of that. So when we're doing things, we want to make sure that we're making sound decisions that make financial sense, but also environmental sense as well. So probably used up my 3 minutes. I think that's about it, but I welcome any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Our next speaker is one of the main organizers for the Oregon Nature Alliance, Teresa Nelson.
Thanks. Short person problems. Thank you. My name is Teresa Nelson, and I am part of the Oregon Nature Alliance. We're a group that formed early last year, so we're almost 2 years old now. And we're really a group that's focused on environmental sustainability. And the definition of environmental sustainability that I really like is the responsibility to conserve natural resources and protect ecosystems to support health and well-being now and into the future. That's really what our group is about. And we came together as a group of village residents that were concerned about the management and use of some of the village's open spaces. And we really realized that there wasn't a voice for people who were concerned about environmental sustainability in the village, and we wanted to become that voice. So we came together and we have 4 main goals. The first is to advocate for environmental sustainability in the village, for the protection and restoration of village natural and open spaces. And to do that, we've gone to many, many village meetings, not as many as the village staff go to, obviously, but it did get that way last year, didn't it? So that's one of the ways that we became the voice in the village. Our second goal is to connect people to nature, because when people know and love a space, they're more willing to stand up to protect that space. And so some of the ways that we've done that is we've partnered with the library on story walks in the parks. We've done birding and wetland walks. We've done park cleanups, and we've also done some seed collecting, both for Dane County Parks and their seed collection activities. And then this year we did, with permission from the village, collected some seed from Lerner Park, and that's gone to the library to go into their seed library. So if you want native seeds, you can go to the library and check them out, but you don't have to bring them back if you don't want to. Our third goal is to educate about the importance of protecting natural areas and increasing habitat in the built environment, because there isn't that space out there anymore. It's been taken, and if we don't start bringing nature home, there isn't going to be anywhere. So some of the things that we've done to educate people, we've had booths at things like National Night Out, the Winter Fest, some of the back to school nights. We've done native garden tours the last 2 summers. So people in the village who are already incorporating native plants into their yards have welcomed our group to their yards for a show and tell kind of thing, and it varies. Some people have done a little bit, some people have done a lot, and it's really about looking at that process and what do you learn along the way. We've done a monarch festival the last 2 years, so that's brought people in, a lot of kids, to kind of celebrate the monarch butterfly. It really is an iconic insect that people kind of rally around and know that we have to do things to support that insect. And really the idea is that we have to do more to protect all insects. And that's really been very popular. This last year, we probably had 100 and some attendees at that festival. And then this coming year, we're working on a series of presentations in collaboration with the library on native plants, growing native plants, looking to do a planting at the village, the new village hall. And we also have someone from a botanist with the Wisconsin State Herbarium that's going to do some talks as well. So currently we have over 100 members, and our Facebook page is where we do most of our outreach, and that has over 600 followers. And overall, I think there's been a lot of excitement for our group in the village, and I think we've really kind of filled a void that was lacking here. And if anybody's interested in becoming a member, you can visit our Facebook page. There's a post that's pinned at the top, and if you're not on Facebook and want to join, you can talk to me later. Thanks.
Oregon Nature Alliance has done a great job of keeping the village board honest and motivated. Thank you. Our next speaker is a student member of Oregon's Sustainability Committee to talk about what's going on with that effort. Hadley Stain.
So as Mike mentioned earlier, I'm the student representative for our Sustainability Committee here in Oregon. I'm currently a sophomore at the high school, but started my journey freshman year. I joined this committee to not only share my voice as a young woman looking for a constant solution, but also as a student who wants to see the change Oregon is willing to make. Now that I've talked more about myself, I would like to talk more about the community as a whole. In mid-2021, the village board adopted a strategic plan for the next 2 years, identifying its priorities, which included environmental sustainability and addressing climate change. In February of this year, the village board voted to create a committee called the Ad Hoc Sustainability Committee, composed of 7 members. We met for the first time in April, and our mission is to create a sustainability plan which identifies policies, programs, goals, objectives, strategies, and metrics to reduce the village's negative impact on the environment and increase the village's resilience to climate change. This plan will provide guidance for current and future decisions of village employees, board of trustees, and other committees to help improve the village's overall environmental, economic, and social health now and for future generations. We are tasked with completing the plan by July 31st, 2023. When we first met in April of 2022, one of the first things we decided to talk about was how we were going to split up our group to cover the most amount of information possible in the shortest amount of time to achieve our goal. We decided to create 3 subcommittees, which are future growth policies, village infrastructure, and watershed and natural environment. These subcommittees still stand today, as we have had smaller meetings with other volunteers who reached out to us with specific interests in each group. Our goal seemed almost unachievable at the beginning, but after a lot of research about what other committees were doing and how they were doing it, we came to the realization that as a community, unfortunately, we're a little late to a sustainability plan. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we thought to instead take a little bit from different communities around us and make it our own. We also got feedback from village staff about what they would like to see, as well as questions we had for them. We also plan to send out a survey in February of 2023 to get feedback from the community on various things such as goals, support, and general values pertaining to sustainability. We are still currently in our draft stage of the plan, but we do have 6 main topics, which are energy, water, land management, waste and materials, transportation, and general community sustainability. Under each of these main topics, we have different goals and then strategies to achieve each goal. When all 7 of us met for the first time in April of 2022, we weren't sure if completing the plan by July 31st, 2023 was even achievable. But now we are confident that we will get it done by the set date if everything goes as planned. Thank you so much.
Our last speaker for the evening is Andy Horniman, who's a member of the Oregon Parks Board. He's a member of the Badfish Creek Watershed, Friends of the Badfish Creek Watershed, and if any of you are canoers or kayaks, he's one of the people kayakers, he's one of the people that keep that waterway open for our enjoyment. And lastly, he's part of the Anderson Park Friends. Andy?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks again for everyone for being here. It's been great to listen to everyone speak. Touch on a few things. Like Mike said, I'm on the Oregon Park Board. I was appointed earlier this year. Elise had mentioned it earlier that we're going to start the 5-year Park and Rec plan, and then we're also going to start the 10-year comprehensive plan. Really excited to see where that's going to go. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for public input on those. And I guess one of my main goals for being on the park board is I want to look at the parks, the whole system, not just sports fields, just see how passive recreation can be used, how everybody can use those as well. Also a member of the Friends of Badfish Creek Watershed. We're a chapter of the Rock River Coalition. One thing that I like to note is everyone lives in a watershed. When it rains, your water has to go somewhere. All of ours runs from here, runs down to the Oregon branch, out into the effluent ditch outside of town, into Badfish Creek, and works its way down into the Yahar River, the Rock River, Mississippi River, out down the Gulf of Mexico. About 50% of our water in that creek comes from treated wastewater. So a lot of it's from Oregon, or a lot of it's from Madison, excuse me. Some of it does come from Oregon. We just completed a 2-year study tracking elevated E. coli levels in the creek. Ways to reduce that is Madison has a UV disinfection process. It's their last step in their process. Currently they do it 6 months of the year. They're going to be moving to a 9-month out of the year schedule partly due to the study that we did. Oregon currently does not do UV disinfection, but with all the upgrades coming in the near future to the wastewater treatment facility, it's slated to be in there. We're trying to push for that to be moved to an earlier phase to help with that. Mike also mentioned, we do a lot of stream clearing and group paddles, so if anyone wants to go out on the waterway, please talk to me, and I would love to give you more information about it, history of the water, where the water comes from, and just other things that we do out there. Last thing I'll touch on is I'm a board member of Anderson Park Friends. We're a local nonprofit that partner with Dane County Parks. Anderson Farm County Park, just south of the village, is just over 300 acres with hopes of growing to just under 600 acres if everything goes right in the upcoming years. I've been a board member since the inception, late 2013 as we were doing planning, and then we finally formally formed a board in 2014. Currently have 5 board members on there. We've been working a lot on the east side of Union Road. We've been doing woodlot restoration. We're removing invasives, buckthorn, garlic mustard, multiflora rose, making room for all the native plants and all the good stuff that needs to be in there. We've been doing prairie restoration. We started with 2.5 acres, added another 2 acres the next year. Last year we added another 4 acres. That's all up by the Schultz Forest. We also did 35 acres of native plantings in the new dog park area as well, so that's a giant prairie. We have community gardens and food pantry gardens. Currently there's 23 plots that are 1/4 acre in size for local people to grow produce. It's a way to get that into your homes and into your systems without having to transport that. And we also do education with the local school districts. We do maple tree tapping and syruping event late spring, usually February, March. We do an Arbor Day event in April where we have about 70 6th grade kids come out to the park, do a bunch of environmental things with that. And we also do different seed collection events throughout the year, but my favorite is when we get together with the National Honor Society kids in October. It's great having people who want to be there out volunteering. So we collect the seeds. All of our seeds that we collect there, we take to a processing facility for Dane County Parks, where then volunteers throughout the fall and the winter will clean the seeds, bag them, weigh them, and everything. And if you look at the street value of native plant seeds or prairie seeds from the previous calendar year, it was roughly $1.25 million worth of seeds. So that's $1.25 million that Parks doesn't have to spend on that aspect of restoration, where they can spend that money on other things that they do. So I'm going to end there. If you have other questions, please look for me afterwards. So again, thanks for having this event, and thanks for inviting us.
And that's it for tonight's program. As you can see, Oregon residents are involved in sustainability at all different levels. Please give yourself a hand. If you're active, thank you so much. If you aren't active but want to be, please connect up with the people here and get involved. Our last portion of the event tonight is question and answer. If anyone has questions or comments, please raise your hand and I'll come over with the mic.
I have a question. Sorry. I don't need that mic. I just want to know what the fourth goal of the Nature Alliance was, because I think Teresa forgot something.
Does anything else I said 4 goals and then I only said 3.
Good question.
So the 4th goal, and the one that really I was most excited to tell you about, is working to put habitat on the ground in the village. And one of the ways that we did that is through our Oregon Shares program the last 2 summers. SHARE stands for Simply Have Areas Reserved for the Environment. It comes from the Pollinator Partnership. And what we've done is village residents can sign up and we visit their yard and we talk about ways that they can increase the habitat in their yards. We try to point out invasive species that could be removed, like really tall buckthorns full of berries. Saw a couple of those this summer. But then we also look for ways that they can incorporate native plants into their yard, because that's really the basis of our ecosystems. And we look for ways to either incorporate it into existing garden beds, or we help them plan a new garden bed, and then we provide the plants and help them plant that garden. So over the last 2 years, we've done close to 30 yard visits throughout the village and planted around 20 gardens. So that's something that I'm really proud of. We've given away through that program and also a native plant giveaway over 1,000 native plants to people in the village. So thanks, Andy.
If you don't mind, I want to just say a couple more thank yous. This event wouldn't have happened without Ray, because Ray did such a good job of just reaching out to people and getting people here and getting speakers. So thank you for that, Ray. Thank you for all the time that you spent organizing it. We also had some help from 2 other folks that are here today. Lisa, who's with Everlight Solar. If anybody's interested in learning more about solar for residential use, please talk to Lisa. And thank you for your help planning, Lisa. And then also Dylan from JT Engineering. a local engineering firm right here in Oregon. So, and JT Engineering, the marketing folks there put together that really cool looking flyer that you see to show the event. So thank you, JT Engineering. And then lastly, Dan, are you back there? Thank you, Dan, for hosting our event. I really appreciate it. Dane looks forward to doing another event with you guys in 2023. So, if we have any more questions, there's still time for that.
Well, I have a question. Can you hear this? Okay, my question for Andy, how do you get those students organized at the park? How do you get that to happen and to keep them in focus and get the work done? I find that all amazing.
Thanks, that's a great question. We find with the National Honor Society kids, they really want to be there. So it helps when they have an interest. It's something they look forward to each year, something that their leader looks forward to each year. We also partner with Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts throughout the year, and we find that people are very receptive to learning about nature and finding a way to get out of the classroom or getting out of a building. And anything that we do, like I said, I had about 70 sixth grade students out at the park in April. We set up 5 different stations throughout the park, rotate through there, and then we end with a tree climbing event where we strap harnesses on them and let them climb the big oak tree that's at the entrance. And it's our way of just showing, this is something else that you can learn. It's a different way to learn than just sitting in front of the classroom. So, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, hold on.
Please hold it close to your mouth.
I guess I'm wondering, does any of these groups sort of tap UW? And I'm curious generally about outside sources in terms of funding or information at the state, federal, or university level. Does anyone want to comment on any ties to those entities? Or not? It seems very local, but I'm wondering if there are connections to other layers.
So this last year, we actually did apply for a grant from the village. We applied for a grant, a transportation type grant that would allow us to implement a couple electric vehicles within the village. What we found is the cost for the EV, like pickup trucks for parks and stuff, which is a perfect application for us, are pretty representative of or pretty equal to the gas powered. It's not too much different. The difficulty we had was the charging stations, which can get very expensive. But we did not get that grant. So we were kind of really excited. Lauren Striegel was our Assistant Director of Public Works, was really working hard to be able to get that grant. It was over $100,000, and we were really optimistic about getting it. But we'll continue to go after it because I think some of the federal money that has been allocated is not trickled down quite yet. And so I would encourage people to look for grant opportunities because I think some of that stuff came out so fast that some of the agencies that we've talked to didn't really know what was happening yet. And so we're hoping maybe in the second go around we'll be able to get some more grant funding for that type of thing.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So back to the money thing. Everybody cares about the money, right? So a couple projects the MPO is currently working on to help leverage and help access additional funding for the whole entire county. We're working on an EV charging plan right now. Federal dollars are really looking at, I forget what the acronym is, but basically the interstate highway system and making sure that you can go across the country and that you don't have to go on average any further than 50 miles between charging stations. So we're looking at within the region, once that is done, then how do we go about prioritizing charging stations? Because we do anticipate additional funding will be available for that. So this should help lay the groundwork and make that a little bit easier for smaller communities that don't have the resources to develop those plans on their own. Another one is there's a new safety program for vulnerable road users, but you have to go through and get this sort of overall safety plan assessment done before you can access the funding to actually build the projects. And so the MPO is doing a county-wide plan to sort of do that base assessment, and then, I may be putting my foot in my mouth, it might not be county-wide, but it will include the village because you're part of our planning area. And so then that will sort of, it's that first step that then allows communities to pursue the implementation dollars to actually build the infrastructure. So there, as was just said, it can be a long time to be able to access those dollars. It was kind of like drinking from the fire hose when the BIL passed. The US DOT and the Wisconsin DOT have been struggling to get the programs even out the door. And there's just a lot of money and a lot of new programs that need a lot of new rules at that level, but we'll keep everybody posted as things come up, and we're doing our best to try and leverage those and keep the door open so we can access additional funding in the future to implement things throughout the area.
Can I give one other answer to that question about the funding? One of the prior municipalities we're in was Cross Plains, and there's an organization out there called BECLA, Black Earth Creek Watershed Association. So they work together with CARPC, Capital Area Regional Planning, to get funding to clean up. They wanted to work watershed wide on addressing the pond. And they did a lot of really nice things with making the creek better for trout fishing, you may know, and then also adding paths and boardwalks so folks can walk along the creek and enjoy it. So there's CARPC is a kind of similar to MPO. It's a regional organization. Funding through the county, funding through the DNR is also ways to go. I don't know about the UW, if they partner with municipalities on that kind of thing, but there may be.
I'll just add, feel free to reach out to Sustain Dane too. We're connected with a lot of organizations, other municipalities, UW as well, so happy to make connections or apply for a grant together, see how we can partner. Yeah.
Lucia does a lot of really good work with grant writing and partnering with organizations or communities for Sustain Dane and the community to be better fitted to get the grant versus each of them on their own.
The village staff as well has done a good job of reaching out and trying to get grant opportunities. From small programs like free trees for people that want to plant trees in their terraces, which you can apply for at the village, to I believe the Oregon Library has requests out for grants for $1 million to help fund the photovoltaic cells and the geothermal fields and things. So, any further questions? If not, please feel free to help yourself to what's remaining of the food and drink and talk to people here. Thank you very much for coming.
Board.